In the time before time, the Great Spirit descended from the heavens, carrying we, the ones called the Matoran, to this island paradise. We were separate and without purpose, so the Great Spirit blessed us with 3 virtues: unity, duty, and destiny. We embraced these gifts, and, in gratitude, we named our island home Mata Nui, after the Great Spirit himself. But our happiness was not to last. Mata Nui's brother, Makuta, was jealous of these honors and betrayed him. Makuta cast a spell over Mata Nui, who fell into a deep slumber. Makuta's power dominated the land. As fields withered away, sunlight grew cold, and ancient values were forgotten. Still, all hope was not lost. Legends told of 6 mighty heroes, the Toa, who'd arrived to save Mata Nui. Time would reveal that these were not simply myths, for the Toa did appear on the shores of the island. They arrived with no memory, no knowledge of one another, but they pledged to defend Mata Nui and its people against the darkness. Tahu, Toa of Fire; Onua, Toa of Earth; Gali, Toa of Water; Liwa, Toa of Air; Pohatu, Toa of Stone; and Kopaka, Toa of Ice. Great warriors with great power, drawn from the very elements themselves. Together, they were 6 heroes with one destiny: to defeat Makuta and save Mata Nui. This is their story.
So reads the intro for all 4 Bionicle Chronicles books. It is a narrative statement of the story we have seen played out first in the Mata Nui online game, and soon again in Bionicle Mask of Light in 2003. Bionicle Chronicles is a series of chapter books published by Scholastic in partnership with the LEGO Group, published in 2003, with Tales of the Toa being published in July of that year. And it launched the first foray of LEGO into producing chapter books for their story theme. So in conjunction with that anniversary, I thought it was high time to execute an idea that I have had sitting around in my head for about 3 years, since about 2020. Around that time, I came up with the idea, since I had nothing better to do during the pandemic, that I should review the Bionicle books in the same way that my literature professor in college had reviewed great works of literature like The Odyssey, Dante's Inferno, and other such great classics. I thought to myself, wouldn't it be hilarious if we took these children's books with the same amount of seriousness as we would approach a classic that has shaped our world and our culture forever? But I don't necessarily think that's too far out. Despite the low barred entry for the Bionicle books, there is still a story there. There has to be something that has made it resonate with kids and those kids turning into adults for over 20 years now. There's something here that I want to explore, and that's what this series is intended to do. My name is Leo, and this is going to be our intro into the Bionicle Book Reviews by the BCC. Bionicle did a very unique thing in the fact that it was the first LEGO original theme to have a fully realized narrative. Eventually, there are some steps to get there, but all the groundwork was laid out in the first year to make this something truly different than what had come before, instead of really relying on the toys themselves and how cool they were, or tying the toys to some other property like they did with Lego Star Wars, and later on with Lego Harry Potter. This is something where the story itself would sell the toys, and sell the child on telling those stories with those toys. Another LEGO first it did was it included horrible violence in its themes. This is something that could not be avoided, because when you're struggling against ancient darkness, you're not going to try and talk it to death. Just look at the toys. You know, Taku, he has this piece of fire coming out of his hand. It looks like a sword. Okay. Maybe you can get away with calling it a tool, which they did in the marketing, but Liwa, no, that is an axe. You do not just smack people with axes, you chop them up. The main play feature with the Bionicle toys, as advertised, was you punching things in the face to knock their masks off. Again, a violent feature that probably goes against what Ole Kurt Christensen would have wanted from his plastic toys. But this is a new era. This is a new LEGO. It's the turn of the century, so they had to try new things. But probably combining these two things, the story-driven toys, as well as the introduction of violence, the most unique thing that LEGO did was give kids an action figure that they could just create their own story, create their own characters, and plug them straight into the world. Always one of the beauties of LEGO is that you can take apart what you're given, and you can make something completely from your own imagination. And then instead of just leaving it at that, which is what LEGO had done for the past 50 years or so, they just gave the kids an outlet into mythology. So Bionicle draws heavily upon a classic hero's journey cycle, very Joseph Campbell of them. So you have the heroes, they start somewhere, they receive a quest, they go on that quest. To go to the next part of that quest, they need knowledge. They go underground, they go to the underworld, they get the knowledge, and they return with the ability to defeat whatever challenge they had on the surface, and they return better and more improved. However, in this case, we often switch the individual for the team. There are some cases in the Bionicle story where it reverts back to the individual, but by and large, it's a very collective narrative for the hero's journey. The team goes together through the cycle, but the team is also elevating each other as individuals. But what they've also done is they have placed this cycle in terms of a union between biological and technological patterns. We start out with more or less robots. You can cool about the terms, but they are robots with little flesh inside. But they're on a very natural, a very organic island. And this initial juxtaposition of the technological and the organic is what drove, I think, a good part of kids' interest in Bionicle. You can see these cool robots, but they're in trees. They're not in spaceships like in Star Wars. They're not underground. They're in nature, like humans are supposed to be. Just beyond the broader juxtaposition of those, there's also this idea that our protagonists are fighting for a body to return to homeostasis. The Matoran that are in the story, the little guys, they work to maintain the body. The Toa fight infections, and the Traga oversee that these tools that the body has continue to do their work. The entire body has a function, which can only be done when all its members are going to function as one. Unity. So, to bring it to an example that's coming out, people always say that one of the themes of Frank Herbert's Dune is that it's a story of ecology. Well, in this case, Bionicle is a story of biology, the biological chronicle. So the genesis of this series actually starts in around May 2020 when I was still on Twitter. I put out 3 survey questions asking the Bionicle community on Twitter and also other spaces I was in what they thought about certain themes in Bionicle and the series as a whole. I asked them where did Bionicle engage them? The top answer that I got was the atmosphere. That's why I mentioned before, that combination and juxtaposition of hard technology with very lush organic nature. The second answer after that was the big mysteries, the little traps of lore that the team set up that had a payoff some 8 years down the line from when it actually began. All the stuff that was there and all the setup that did have a really big payoff. Not many, to my surprise, brought up the characters of Bionicle. I have some thoughts about why this might be, but I want to explore this more as we actually read through the books in the series. So that's something that we're going to return to as these videos go on. My second question, after asking where Bionicle was most engaging and impactful to them, was, without this atmosphere, which remember was our top answer, does Bionicle still have the substance to be impactful? And this was a very divisive question, apparently, because most people were split, with the majority saying no and a minority saying yes. The majority would mostly say that the story itself hinges upon the atmosphere, that deep mystery that is built into it. Those in the minority would say that no, the story is impactful because it hinges around those central themes which are core to us: our friendship, our resolve to persevere through trying times. And then my third question was what themes from Bionicle resonated with you? The top answer, heroism, by and large. The courage and sacrifice that the characters exhibited in response to the trials they went through. And then this was just maybe one or two people talking about the distinction of destiny and determinism. Now this is going to be something that we're going to explore as we talk about the books themselves, but destiny is very interesting because your destiny, your doom, is not something that you have to do. Fate is really weird, and I don't think we really have a good understanding of fate, and that's something I want to explore going into this, because I think a distinction between those two, destiny and determinism, will be key into understanding how Bionicle has actually impacted us by and large. So the goals for this series are, as silly as it's going to be, is to apply, like I said at the beginning, a college-level analysis to children's literature. We're going to treat this with the same seriousness as we would the Odyssey if we were taking a world literature class. The idea is we'll extract something from this that we can use in our daily lives, and if we're not careful, we might even have some fun along the way. So, my plan was to get the first review out this month in July. At the time of this recording, I don't necessarily know if I'm going to do that, but I would certainly like to, since July is when Tale of the Toa turns 20 years old, and that's a pretty big milestone I want to try and meet. Hopefully these will release twice a month, depending on how quickly I can get my schedule going, but I would like this to be a regular series. So I want you all to go to your bookshelf, pull out Tale of the Toa, and start reading that, because that will be the first book that we will talk about. So please, after you're done watching this, please go ahead, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, like the video, and please join us on Discord. I will post some thoughts on there after each video as it comes out. I would very much like to engage with you either there in our Discord server or here in the comments, and just talk about the books we all grew up with. This should be fun. So I look forward to seeing you in the first video. Farewell. Sell the child.